You are listening to Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. This is Mike Mine and Cashflow Mike, and that right there, even though it says we're going live, we're live right now. That's what we're doing. We are live. So Blaine Birch, the CEO of Dry Run, what's up, my man?
Oh, this is exciting because we're using a new streaming platform, which is streaming live to YouTube. And if we had done it right, it's supposed to also stream live to Facebook and LinkedIn, but somehow I don't think it's going there. If it is, enjoy. And then it records, and we're getting supposedly high quality audio, video, everything, all with this brand new cool platform we're using. And I can do fancy things like this drum roll, which I don't know if Mike can even hear. But
did you hear it? Was it a drum roll? I didn't hear it.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait. Okay, I think. Okay, I'm just learning how to do this. Okay, watch. Okay, listen to this.
Dang, right
there we go. So
right there.
You got
after that. Oh my God. This is a game changer. This is probably exactly what we needed all along, right?
Well,
it only took us two seasons of doing it the whole hard way, the old way, the unimproved way, the we don't know what we're doing way to get here.
Yeah, and now we still don't really know what we're doing, but we got better technology to not know what we're doing. But this is really cool. This is really fun. We just started it today, so there's lots we can do. I promise I won't overdo the cheesy sound effects.
I kind of like it.
They're fun. Like they're cool.
Thing. All right, but that's why I picked today's topic, right? I picked today's topic like going, oh my God, look at all the changes that have already happened right now in 2023 to this podcast. And believe it or not, downloads are up. Did you see it? Did you see the report that came out this week? We're actually getting more weekly downloads. So something happened.
They like our little skulls. I'm telling you, man, they like that because we got a lot more downloads in 1 week, and I'm like, well, that's pretty cool because I can't really point to anything else. But just wait till we're streaming live all over the place. That's going to be super cool.
Yeah, unbelievable. So here's today's topic, Blaine. I picked it out at 2 minutes till. Because my contractors backyard is fantastic. Oh my God, I cannot wait to show you that backyard. It is. You're probably never going to get me to travel again.
Well, that's good. That's a good sign.
I want to go back here. Yeah, I'm just going to invite people over. But today's topic is this: even if you don't have the perfect idea to begin with, you are likely to adapt. So even if you don't have a perfect idea to begin with, you're likely to adapt. And it's from Victoria Ransom is who had it. But look at this, right? Our idea to have a podcast was built on a friendship. Hey, let's just, a couple things. I know even less than that. That's a perfect idea recipe for a podcast, right? So we thought, let's just do it and see what happens. We didn't know we'd be now buying podcast software, creating awesome logos, increasing downloads, right?
Yeah, we adapted. That's exactly it. We adapted. So that's a great topic. Yeah, what are you drinking before we dive in with both feet here?
All right, so neighbor Pat, he's become like an unofficial sponsor of the podcast. So he brought me down just some stuff he was drinking. He says, you should put this on podcast. And then he's already got like 3 brews brewing down at the house. So I might, over the next month or month and a half, have 3 different Weebert Brewing Company,
nice.
Brews. And it's always something great. It's always something great. But what he gave me, first of all, it says Que Pasa Dude on it. So that's pretty cool. But I don't know how to take it just yet. The name of it is from Freetail, right? Freetail, who I think we've done before. But it's called Texicali.
Okay.
And what's funny is that you see billboards all over Texas saying, "Don't California my Texas." With all these people moving from California over to Texas. They're like, so I think it's interesting because it's a combination of, a rich Mexican culture, right? It looks like a Dia de los Muertos characters on it.
Nice.
With a cowboy on one and a surfer.
Nice. That's awesome.
But look, there's San Antonio's got the tower there. So
That's so cool.
It's really a cool can. It really it is. So it's a brown ale. So I'm really excited about it. So what about you, man?
Well, and if you're not watching on YouTube, you can check out YouTube. If you're listening to us, we just end up describing the cans, but they look really cool. I actually picked this one just because it was just like such. Actually, I had a really cool can I was gonna do, and then I looked and it was like 11%. And I thought, oh man, maybe we're gonna go to Barrett Jackson later, so maybe I better do just a light octane here. So I picked this one called Scenic Route, and it's a West Coast IPA from Chapman Crafted Beer in Orange, California.
All right. So what they call those? The woodies, right? That station wagon. Did they usually have a wood panel down the side? That's a woody going across a bridge.
Oh, wrong way. Yeah, and it's really kind of a cool illustration, and it's got this nice kind of right before sunset. I say sunset, maybe it's sunrise, but it's just a cool little can. So,
all right. Well, I want to say thank you again to Pat, neighbor Pat, always bring me down the beer. So, like I said, unofficial sponsor. Thanks, Pat. Appreciate that. That's like a song now. That's what this show's been missing. That's what this show's been missing.
That's for you, Pat. All that cheering. It's for you. Now they know how to work this. It's all for you.
Oh my God, that's so fun. So it's really interesting, right? Because this thing continues to evolve, and it was really I want to go back right off the bat because we're talking about this podcast now and how even if you have an idea that's not perfect, you're likely to adapt it. Do you remember? Because I can't remember. Do you remember what was the decision we made to even start this to begin with?
No, I think it was probably off the cuff a comment, and there wasn't a lot of thought. It might have been, hey, do you want to try making a podcast? Let me record on Zoom while we're on Zoom or something like that. I can't remember, but I don't think it was a big lot of thought put into it.
No, I remember the discussion was more about, all right, let's try this because we obviously like talking to each other. Let's try it and not put a lot of work into it, right? That was kind of our goal. Like, let's not do too much work. We got jobs, we got full-time jobs, but let's kind of do it. And what it's evolved to, you don't do something for 3 seasons now if you don't like it.
Oh no, it's totally fun. But you can see how, like, if you look at our website, you'll see it's like this stuff fast. But everything is starting to improve. Like everything's getting a little better now, because we're getting listeners, and as soon as you get listeners, you feel responsible. And plus, it's just fun. It's just super fun doing this. So it's we just keep doing kind of more cool stuff.
Yeah. So if this is your first time, right? If you've never heard a Mike and Blaine episode, we never pick the topic up front, right? It's business, beer, it's bullshit, and generally what happens is about 30 to 2 minutes before we start recording this, I go to a list of stuff we've already curated of topics and randomly say, oh, we talked about this today or this last week, or we've already talked about this 10 times, and pick something and we go with it. So it's not scripted. It's not prepared. It's probably not even well thought out.
No, but that's probably what makes it a bit more entertaining, because I think there's lots of scripted stuff out there, and I find it a little dry and a little academic, and that's not us. And we've never ever run short of stories.
Yeah, and I've done one that's more educational. Like, I'm going to teach you a skill. I'm going to teach you a concept. I'm going to teach you a theory. I prefer this. I prefer even listening to something like this, right? It's like, let me hear what you guys are thinking in real time, like we're having a conversation. That's why we drink the beer, right? And speaking of drinking beer, if we are missing a beer sponsor, we can't rely on neighbor Pat for the rest of the time, right? So if you want to sponsor this show, if you want to be the sponsor, beer sponsor, let us know. Go to mikeandblaine.com. say, I want to become a sponsor. I think it's near the top of the page right now.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Become a sponsor and let us know. We had Rough House Ales, or Rough House Brewery. And they gave us 4 beers, one for each week, a whole month.
Yeah. And okay, let's make this clear. When we say sponsor, you're probably wondering, well, how much does that cost? A beer.
Yeah.
Maybe
4 beers. 4 beers.
4,
Yeah, 4 beers.
4 beer. If you're going to be an official sponsor, maybe you give us 4 beer. And now Mike's in San Antonio, so literally San Antonio Brewery, drop off 4 beer for Mike.
Yeah.
And I'm in Scottsdale.
Okay, so I gotta clarify that. It's not 4 beers, it's 8 beers. And sometimes I have to have 16 beers because Breger and Pat want beer too. So maybe a 6-pack, so 24 beers.
Okay, it's going up. Okay, I'm not that picky. If you're in Scottsdale or Phoenix area and you want to sponsor, and in the summer I'm in Edmonton, you can sponsor me there too. Honestly, just give me 4 beer, give me half a dozen beer. Hopefully different ones, because we'll feature a different one every week. And I'm just happy to have a free beer. So that's our beer sponsor. Now, if you want to be the title sponsor, or the one we actually do a commercial on, come and talk to us. We've got really reasonable rates, and we got people listening to us, and which is kind of cool. So on to
the topic. The topic. So, all right. So think about it. Every idea is just kind of always half baked. Don't you think that? You're like going, oh,
yeah.
The world is missing X, and you have this idea about what you're going to do. And chances are, if you're like me, I always kind of start throwing the idea around my friends before I do anything else. I'm like, hey, what would you think of something like this? What's happened to me lately is that I have my friends throwing ideas at me.
Yeah.
And mainly because I built 14 companies, and I'm like, what do you think of this? And I instantly go through this checklist of scalable, repeatable, necessary, is there a marketing message there? Is there, all these different things? And you weed through so many ideas. I'm talking about thousands of just ideas thrown at you on a yearly basis. So, does that happen to you?
Well, it does. Yeah, it does a little bit. But I know back in my agency days when we started doing mobile software, people would find us online, or they'd find us on the App Store, and then they would phone us up. And after a while, you're just like, you don't even want to answer the phone, because everyone was like, hey, got an idea. All you have to do is, build it and market it and do everything, and then we'll split the millions of dollars because it's my idea.
You do all the work. You do all the work.
But their idea is so brilliant, and it's like, you know what, ideas are like assholes. Like, get out of here. So people have these ideas. It's all in the execution. We've talked about that a million times. A good idea is a prereq. You have to have a good idea, or you're dead before you start. But then it's all in the execution and sticking with it. But it's interesting when you said, like, how did the quote go? You end up being adaptable, or something like that?
It says you are likely, you can likely adapt. You can likely adapt.
You can likely adapt. Yeah. And you know what? I think the important part there is adapting is one of the things that increases your chance of success mightily. Like, it's so incredibly important to understand, like, you come in with an idea, but then it's understanding the market and understand, like, there's a million different things you learn along the way, and you're just constantly adapting. There are some people that refuse to adapt. And those are the ones, I think, that are gone within the first year. I think if you're completely attached to your idea so much that you're unwilling to adapt, you're not going to be a success. It's just not going to happen.
Well, that's where I kind of agree. Sometimes I don't agree with these quotes that we talk about, but I kind of agree that you can likely adapt. That doesn't say you will. That doesn't say you should or you shall. It says you can. Which means if you have an idea that's not quite perfect, sometimes it may be just a degree or two off.
Yeah. Right? And not just the idea, it's the execution that's constantly just degrees off, right? And even if you have a really good idea, it's like you don't have that product market fit, or you haven't executed right, or you haven't priced right. Like there's a million little things. It's just that constant evolution and adapting. But she's right in that it's you're likely able to adapt. Like there's not a lot of ideas that are so bad to start with that you can't adapt until you have a success.
Yeah. So weird thought I had that I didn't get to put in. When you said you didn't choose the beer because it was 11%, again, if this is your first time listening, the reason why he didn't choose 11% is that what we've found out is that the episode gets a little slurry at the end.
Yeah, and I ramble and I repeat.
All right. So hey, let me take it a different way, right? You said, okay, everybody comes to you with an idea. And I call this a sideshow venture. The reason why they come to you with an idea is that they see you and they see that you've been successful. They think that you've figured something out, right? It's like, the old story of Midas. Everything he touches was gold. So they're like, oh, well, nobody knows everybody's reality. You have an outside perception of who you are.
Yeah.
But they come to you and said, well, if you were good at this or you were good at that, you could also be good at my great idea, right? That's why they bring you the idea to begin with.
Yeah.
I think what you have to resist is the urge to just jump on every single idea, right? You're going, I don't think I can do that or this because it doesn't fit in to what I'm already doing. There's a meaning that you run dry run. It would not make sense for you to also try to run a bed and breakfast.
No.
Right?
No,
right? I mean, it just wouldn't make sense. Or
yeah.
My example where I lost the most money was I'm in the hotel staffing business and the bar business, and it's just people, right? It's just people doing a service.
Yeah.
Why am I trying to get into a retail business to sell hangover pills at Walgreens? Two totally different skill sets, two totally different focuses. Nothing I could really connect except for I could sell the hangover pills at the bar. That was really it. That was the only connection. Yep. It's a sideshow venture that cost me a bunch of money. And all that happened was I spent time, money, energy, lost a friendship over it. I mean, it was a bad deal all the way around.
Yeah. Well, and I think the key there is it's focus and adaptability, right? So that you've because entrepreneurs are always looking for opportunity, and you don't even have to look for it. You just recognize it. You see it and you see it and you see it. It takes a lot of discipline to just stay highly focused and then be adaptable to make that one thing work and work well. Because a lot of times when I'm because I've talked with other entrepreneurs, like you said, they'll bring you ideas. Not a lot of times it's not trying to get me involved in the idea. They just want to bounce it off me, or they want some just some insight because it's from another perspective or whatever. And I enjoy doing that because, I can think back from when I first started all the way through to today, how much benefit I get from talking with people that have been through, well, like you and I, we talk all the time. There's so many other entrepreneurs and advisors and mentors and all these that we talk with all the time. And so if I can help somebody else, and usually it's like, well, I did this and it was stupid, so you might want to not do that, right? That's how you sort of pass that on, but that's when people are adaptable. They have to understand the market, but they also have to listen to people that are experienced it, or that are ahead of them, have been through the same thing, but just a little before them, and they have some insight, hopefully, that you can benefit from.
All right. So weird side note. You said when I do this, it was bad, right? How did you say that exactly?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It's probably when I did something stupid. Hopefully they can avoid my stupidity. Yeah.
But it reminds me of that old joke about, hey, doctor, it hurts when I do this. And he says, don't do that.
Don't do that. That's exactly it.
Which, how your brain just kind of jumps from topic to topic sometimes?
Yeah.
All right. So when I was growing up, my dad had a best friend, right? his name's Artie, right? And I call him Artie the one-man party. The guy's in his mid-70s now and still goes harder than you and I. I'm telling you, this guy, he's amazing. He's just like nonstop, just constant, just partying. Because he's retired now, down in Florida. Golf, beer, dancing. I'm like going, I can't keep up
I
with
can do that. Yeah.
Can't do
I don't
it.
even want to.
So anyway, he's telling me a story. Well, he's like 70-something years old. He goes to the doctor. And the doctor's just asking him questions like going, hey, how's your drinking? He goes, well, I drink a little bit. He goes, well, how many beers do you drink? Or how often do you drink was the first one. He goes, well, I drink every day. He goes, what? He goes, yeah, I try not to miss. That's why this guy's talking to the doctor, It's like, and he's like going, dude, I'll drink like 10, 15 beers a day.
Oh.
At 70-some years old. And when you look at this guy, when you see him and you talk to him every day, you cannot see him slowing down. Can't see it. Yeah. He bicycles, he plays golf, he's out there, he's just active, like just living his best life. He spent a whole career in the trucking business and feels like he's fit enough to just do that. And I can't remember the last time I seen him in long pants. He wears shorts everywhere. And I call him Shorty Pants. Actually, he calls them Shorty Pants, so I now have to call him Shorty Pants. I said, I've never seen you in pants. He goes, I got my Shorty Pants on. Sorry, totally off topic, but it was the fact that he took, what you said about stop doing the things that hurt you. Stop doing the things that are contributing to failure. Stop doing the things that contribute to a lack of success in your business, or you're hitting walls. Why keep hitting the same wall over and over?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought that was like leading into something there. It's like you're building up, and all of a sudden.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm terrible at telling stories. Apparently.
I just thought there was this last bit of wisdom that was about to come out, and then he just stopped and looked at me, and I'm like, oh, that's it. It was good, but I thought there was one more thing.
Let's talk about Riverside. Is yours blurry? Mine is crystal clear, and I look at you, and it's kind of blurry, and there's a sign over the top that says actual recording will be at higher quality. Yeah.
It's super slick. Well, like you look pretty clear to me, but it actually is irrelevant because this is just sidetrack here, guys. We're using this new software I mentioned called Riverside. It's really slick because it actually downloads the audio and video locally and then re-uploads it so that it's basically what's happening in your computer, all high res, top quality audio and everything, and then it packages it later, so it doesn't matter if we have a crappy internet connection. So anyway, neat.
Yeah. My side is like going, man, it's crystal clear. So if you're getting that, yeah, I do look this good in real life.
I should downgrade it because I think it's like up to 4K or something. Like, let's just do like 480 or something. That's blurred on purpose.
Yeah, you don't need to see all this. That's right.
I probably got a few wrinkles coming and everything. You don't need to see that. So.
All right, so I told you about a time when I made a bonehead decision, right? It was an idea. It didn't quite work out. I can, adapt, but we didn't. It was like we ran out of money at that point in time. We ran out of money because it was starting. The only reason I stopped it was it was starting to impact the other business.
Yeah.
Right. I was starting to take money from that business to fund this one, and I'm like going, it shouldn't be that way. There's something wrong here that I don't know about.
Yeah, but if it had been your only business, like you said, you may have been able to adapt, but it takes time, and like you mentioned, it takes runway. That's the number one thing. Like if you had double the runway or a little bit more success, so that you could just early on, so you can go like, oh, we can float this, we can do this, man. Like success and failure sometimes is measured in inches, not miles. Like it's you can be really close and yet be 1,000 miles away at the same time because it's a razor's edge all the time.
Well, runway is super important because the amount of times or the number of times you can adapt change.
Yes.
Like, we can't miss again. I don't know how many times I've had that conversation. We cannot miss this again.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I think entrepreneurs, if especially like if you're in a startup and you're getting going, and it's like, cause like my days, like my agency days were different than like your kind of staffing days or whatever, right? Like it was different. Like we were making money right out of the gate, but you're just sort of capped almost at what you can make, right? With dry run, it's very different that early on, and it's constantly just kind of like, to be able to adapt, have like a big part of your job is you're testing, you're learning, you got to learn quick, you got to learn cheap, but you always have to keep that runway in mind. Like you always have to stretch it out and make sure you've got that time and that ability to adapt. And it's such a challenge. And it's amazing how many companies struggle when they get a giant influx of cash, because a lot of times they think that covers up the issues. It covers up the issues, and what it does is it uncovers them, and it uncovers them really fast. And that's when businesses are burning through millions a month, and they're stuck because they haven't solved it in the first place. Like you need that success, and you need to hang in there long enough to learn it, then scale up. And you try and rush it, and you're going to be in trouble.
Well, you know what happened after COVID? I'll even say in the last year is that VCs wised up to that. I can't just take 10 swings at 10 companies and hope one hits. Because that's really all they need, is just that one big one that kind of hits to cover up the losses of the other ones.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I mean, when you haven't got great product market fit, when you haven't figured out what it's supposed to be, like I have this product that solves this problem, and here's how I tell people about it. That's the big thing, right? Because that's how you get user growth.
Yeah.
Is getting people to go, oh yeah, I have that problem. Yep, I'm willing to try your solution to do it.
Yeah. And like with the I think that's one of the things that's it's been a struggle for startups for last year. But suddenly, out of the blue, VCs care about cash flow. Suddenly, out of the blue, they care about profitability. Oh, they renamed it to default to live, which just makes me laugh still, because I'm like, yeah, it's profitability, knucklehead. Like that's just what it is. It's just what it is. But I think bringing those fundamentals in is really important. But you take a look at, like you said, like they invest in 10 companies and hope one of them hits it big. But with our topic today, some of those companies, maybe 2 or 3, they probably wouldn't have survived anyway. How many out of that 10 would have survived, would have thrived, and got to the place where they were profitable and actually generated an exit for them and for the VC, if they had that time to adapt, if they were kind of given the runway and the support to adapt? Because I'm convinced that out of those 10 businesses, it shouldn't be one that was successful. Like, if you're cutting them all off at the knees, don't try and tell me that 9 other entrepreneurs completely did it ass backwards and wrong. They just ran out of time before they could adapt and find that product market fit.
Here's like a thing nobody talks about in that situation. Why are you investing in 10 and hoping one hits when you have the power, the money, the resources, the connections? Why aren't you giving better mentorship and understanding what these companies need? I think that's a major failure in venture capital, process. They want to be, VCs kind of want to be hands off till it's too late. And then they want to be all in, right? It's like it's too late. Yeah, you should have been all in day one we started.
Yeah. And maybe it's like all in on 5 and have money in the tank, follow on to give them, like, there's so many businesses that I think have failed that actually had a solid concept, solid execution. They weren't quite there. They didn't quite have that fit. And it's easy for the VCs to say, well, I only need one to hit. There's 9 entrepreneurs there that put how much time, stress, energy, and maybe their house on the line. And kind of took them at their word and said, yeah, you know, you guys are going to be huge. We're going to invest in you. You're going to be huge. And all the pressure to burn through that cash so quickly. And it's been just a slaughterhouse for the last 10 years. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs there that should not have been put through the grinder and should not have failed miserably, because it was this blitz scale concept that thankfully seems to be not as present now. It'll probably come back, but it's not as present now. And as an entrepreneur, it's a challenge to even look at investment. Like, we've taken investment in, and you want the right investor. But as an entrepreneur, you know that it's like, we need money to be able to execute on this. It's so important to have good investors, because you can see that if you have the wrong ones, you're the one that's going to pay, you know?
Yeah, exactly right. Hey, do you have a board?
Not a official board.
Okay. All right. So sometimes when companies take on outside investing, or investment, they've got to comprise a board, right? And, this is another place where I think people miss, where they're not adaptable, is because they put the wrong people on the board. They'll put maybe the guy that invested the most, or they'll put, somebody that, should be able to help you, but doesn't, right? It's like a passive, investor. Oh, he's a big name. I've seen that where it's like, oh no, here's somebody on our board and he's a name, right? Maybe Blaine Birch is a name, right? It's a known commodity, and you're on a board. But then that person is not actively helping the company generate business, or he should be introducing it to other people. He should be out there, say, hey, I'm on the board of XYZ company. You should look at it for this, and making more connections and making this company stronger and better, outside of just management and taking a check.
Yeah. And
it's check. Yeah.
And that's what I've heard numerous times, is don't rush into that. Wait till the timing's right. Wait till you probably kind of have to. We surround ourselves with advisors and mentors, and like a massive support system. But, a lot of the sort of insight and advice I get are from other entrepreneurs and their experiences. And that's where, I put a high level of trust in that, because they have nothing at stake. They haven't got an angle. They just have an experience, right?
Yeah. Well, I even feel like these conversations between you and I'm a student. When you're sitting here talking, I'm a student, because I'm trying to learn just like you are. And my hope is listeners do too.
Yeah. So all the listeners out there just listening to like two students talk.
Well,
it's true. Lifelong learning.
That's how we all learn stories of anything, right? It's my story. Everybody is learned by a story.
Yeah. And when, if you actually think you know everything, you're in trouble. So you're not going to get too far. So, and we talk about all this stuff. A lot of times we have topics we don't barely know anything about, but I think, we know enough just to be dangerous, but I think the useful part or the interesting part is the questions and the discussion around it helps you understand what maybe you don't know, and that you have to go find help, or you have to find some resources on something, right? Because that's a lot of times what it highlights. It highlights the gaps that you need to fill.
Yeah, exactly right. Hey, speaking of gaps you need to fill, now a word from our sponsor, Dry Run.
I was just going to say, you're up. I was up last week. You're up.
All right. So, hey, this is Cashflow Mike, and what I want to introduce you today, are you the type of person that has struggled with cash flow? Are you the type of advisor, accountant, bookkeeper that doesn't know how to start advisory service, even though everybody in the world tells you need to do it? I have a plan for you. I have a program for you. It's the Clear Path to Cash and Pathfinder program, which is advisory services for accountants and bookkeepers. If you're looking to build yours, I can help you. Contact me at cashflowmike.com.
And I am going to bug you for one more thing, Mike, because what I think your most interesting program, and I'll bet there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening to us right now, your hidden cash make sure you mention that because I've seen that myself, how important that is.
All right, here's the thing about the hidden cash calculations. It is my best sales tool. I don't even have to have a sales pitch. I just jump on a call with people and says, let's just figure it out. And in less than 15 minutes, well, I'll say 30 if you don't have all your paperwork together, I can tell you exactly where your problems are and what to do next in 30 minutes.
Yeah. And you know what? I will say that that sort of the idea of hidden cash, because I've experienced it myself in my agency days. I've told you this story. I remember looking down after I had a whole bunch of spreadsheets that I started to build, and I built into this epic spreadsheet at the time, which dry rundown kind of covers. But I looked down and realized, holy shit, I've left hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table. It's kind of awe-inspiring. So these are not, there's no trick to this. This is not hard stuff, but until you know it and you give it attention, you're going to have these leaks in your business. And it could be one of a bunch of things. So it's not like, hey, this is where you're losing your money. It's like, no, let's take a look at your business. And are you losing it on, like for a lot of our customers suffer a lot with peaks and valleys and highs, lows, feast, famine. How do you deal with cash flow in your sales pipeline to fill those in? That's where the hidden cash, I think is massively helpful, because you'll find cash in your business that's sitting right there that you should be pulling in as revenue and profit.
And let me sweeten the pot. My partnership with Blaine, anybody that comes on to either the Clear Path to Cash, which is just financial management on a business, or Pathfinder, which is building your advisory services, and I teach you how to find hidden cash in businesses, you also get 3 months trial of dry run, courtesy of Blaine Birch.
Yeah, and you can come and talk with us, and we'll help you get it set up and everything, because we really believe that they dovetail together and can help you run your business better and advise your clients better. So, yeah. So I kind of hijacked your commercial a little bit this week, but I just the hidden path to cash I think is so important. So,
dude, I got to tell you, but when you talk about joint ventures that work, like Uber and Volvo, they did one that I'm like going, that makes sense, right? You have cars, I have drivers. Right? Yeah. Expedia, TripAdvisor. Right? TripAdvisor actually, is an affiliate of Expedia.
Chocolate and peanut butter.
Hey, cash flow, bike, and dry run.
Exactly.
It all fits together.
All fits together. Yep.
All right. So tell me about an idea that you had that was half baked, that you're like, we didn't really, think through it.
Oh boy. There's been, as an entrepreneur, again, there's so many, right? Like you always got ideas. You always see opportunity. I'm just trying to think of what was one that felt a little half baked. Like, man, back in my agency days when we started getting into mobile software, almost the initial ideas we had for apps were almost all half baked. And I look at them now, and we actually built some and deployed them, and the amount of time, money, and energy we put into some of these apps and sold like $30. And then we had some that sold really quite well, to be honest. We learned a lot from it, but what we learned is you do a lot of the grunt work up front, try and quantify and find out if there's a need and people willing to pay for it, and all of this before you put all your time and energy in. If you build it, they'll come idea is super flawed. That's not a business plan. That's a lottery ticket.
All right, so you want to know mine?
Sure. Yeah. If you have a specific one, I'll keep racking my brain for a good story. That's a specific one.
All right. Okay. So remember my origin story is I was a highway patrolman. And I left the highway patrol because my family outgrew my income and started a business. Yep. Well, there was actually a toe dip before that.
Okay.
I was recognized as one of the top 10 accident reconstructionists in the state of Missouri. as a state trooper, which means those guys that you see them on TV that, you know, they make scale diagrams and stuff. I could do that, right? Because it's a math game. It's just math. It's like going, you know, rise over run and the coefficient of friction. It's just math. So I'm like going, well, I can do math. So I heard, well, first of all, I got to preface this by saying that the Highway Patrol, who didn't pay very much at the time, also forbids you from having a second job.
Really?
Yeah, and this changed eventually, but when I first started, you couldn't have a second job. They were afraid that they would have state troopers out there delivering pizzas, shit like that. Just hey, did you arrest me last night? It's kind of a weird thing. So then they allowed you had to get approval for secondary employment. Right. And then they started opening things up, like you can get overtime for like doing construction site security. You can get overtime for, you know, other things. What they were trying to do was make sure that you weren't in a compromised position.
Okay.
As a state trooper who's always on duty, always has to enforce the law, always has to maintain the reputation of the Highway Patrol. Right. I mean, you don't want a state trooper out there doing dumb shit.
Yeah.
So, I'm like going, wait a second, there's this thing out there where just experts, reconstruction experts that are civilians, not troopers at the time, become expert witnesses. Right? So I'm like going, I built this, I don't know, it wasn't Word, it was like some weird marketing thing in the 90s. I don't know. Think Vistaprint for 90s, right? I forget what it was.
Yeah.
And I built this brochure and I called myself the Crash Team, right?
Nice.
and I was charging like $100 an hour to just be, you know, to look at your accident report, you know, and give an expert opinion and talk with lawyers and stuff like that. I'm like, that's a good job. That's actually a good secondary employment.
Yeah.
Half baked though, because, you know, then you're like going, how many different conflicts of interest can I get in? Because maybe I'm a trooper on one side and defense on the other. It's like, wasn't that great? You can't do both jobs at once. I don't think you can do, you know, law enforcement on one side and defense on the other side, depending on the case, right? So, that was one of my half-baked ideas. But it was a good idea for revenue. It really was.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just had this flash of the new Night Court when you mentioned that. Like, I don't know, it was on Hulu or something. It's like totally right with Night Court.
John Larroquette, yeah, he's back in it. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, it's John. Yeah, John Larroquette's I don't know. He's the defense lawyer this time.
You know what I like when they do these reboots? Quantum Leap did the same thing. They connect the old story to the new.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. If you haven't seen Quantum Leap, I mean, it's fantastic on how they've weaved the story that we're used to into what's happening now.
Yeah.
And that's what they did in Night Court was, you know, bring back Larroquette, you know.
I think it's just Larroquette's the only original, yeah. But they connected it because the daughter of Harry is
that's right.
And that 90s show is the same thing. As they've had cameos, but they sort of set it up in Kitty and Red, and then it's a whole new set of kids. But they have the grandparents are still...
Oh, is that true? I didn't know that.
You haven't seen it? Yeah, it's kind of fun.
No, I haven't seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, I think. It's kind of funny, but it's they got some of the old characters that do these little cameos and stuff, which I thought was kind of fun. So.
Crazy! So that was my half-baked idea because I just made a brochure, gave it out to some lawyers, and people called. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, all right. So probably not in Canada, but around the United States, you can say, "Hey, where were you during 9/11?" Right? And maybe you know where you were, but chances
I do
are,
actually. That's how big of a. I think almost everyone, even Canada, probably a lot of people globally know where they were. Right.
I was in a deposition for one of those accident cases that I was an expert witness on. Is that crazy? And at the time, I'd already, because it was prior to the accident was prior to me leaving the Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
So I was a civilian as a expert witness, and I was running the janitorial company at the same time.
Oh
So
man.
I know the conference room I was in even.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if that was like it was half baked maybe because like you mentioned conflict of interest and things like that. It wasn't really half baked as a business model idea. Just was it scalable and was the market big enough and you know those other questions, but not a dumb idea. Now building an app and putting thousands of dollars and thousands and then just sitting there and going, oh shoot, the apps are now 99 cents because that was a dive to the bottom early in the App Store days.
Yeah, what was half baked was I gave defense attorneys an opening to diminish my credibility on regular cases, on you know where my salary was coming from, the highway patrol. I go, wait a second, didn't you just say something different? Last week's case as an expert attorney, you know, expert witness for this. We go, oh yeah, yeah, I did say that.
Yeah. But you know, you used your expertise.
$100 an hour to just say what people tell you, would you? But no, I just let the math talk. I mean, that was a cool thing. But and it never happened to me where I was impeached by my own testimony because it was math. You're talking about math, but I was always worried about that. How could I talk one side and then I'd be testifying against other police officers? Damn sure don't want to do that.
That's not a good idea.
When you're a police officer, right?
Yeah, no, that's not a good idea. Yeah, no, that sounds like a way to go find if you want to do that full time or not. But a lot of half baked things are things that don't make a dime or make almost no money, and you put a lot into it as well. And that's actually sound like what you were doing actually was like you could generate some revenue, but you can't, like you said, it'd be half baked for a whole bunch of reasons, right?
Yeah, but the other part of that sentence is can likely adapt. I could have adapted that. I could have built it up and left the highway patrol, just did it, right? Just made it a business. Yeah.
I think that's the thing is there was room there to move. You had the evidence that there was something there to build on, right? And some businesses aren't necessarily scalable, but that's quite all right. It can still be highly profitable. It can still generate a lot of revenue, even if it's not scalable. That's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah, because all I was doing is selling my time. It was highly profitable.
Yeah. I still remember when I started my very first business that turned eventually into sort of my agency days. You look at it and go like, yeah, you charge solid dollars, but there's almost no expenses. Like you don't have an office and staff and this and that and the other. And, years later, you're responsible for so much more money and so many mouths to feed. And then you look at the end of the day and it's like, I make a little more than I was when I was on my own and had virtually no risk. That's just kind of how it goes, right?
Well, I mean, think about it. At one point in time, I had 500 employees, and now I work here. Why? Because I kind of like it. I like being able to control my environment. I like being able to not have to, deal with 500 employees' problems.
Yeah, be responsible for that many people is just mind-boggling. So, yeah, that's...
Well, I didn't deal with all of them. I dealt with 15 out of the 500. I mean, let's be honest. Yeah,
but you're still ultimately responsible for that group, right? And that's still stress, right?
Yeah. So, all right. So, what's next on Blaine Birch's radar? Like, there's got to be a new idea, and I'm trying to connect it back here. There's got to be a new idea of like, we're thinking about this. Why don't we float an idea out there and see what happens?
Man, like my days are just filled with dry run, right? And we already got that idea; it's already going. So, actually, I will say the one thing a friend of mine did I've talked about is designing a lock blade knife, like a frame lock knife, just because we thought it'd be cool, it'd be kind of fun to do, and then figure out, if we actually got far enough along, then you start going, well, how could we actually? Because I've never done a product like that. How can you actually manufacture something and get into distribution and everything? We would do it on the cheap. It would all be, a direct sale from us and everything, I imagine. Like, we haven't talked about that far, but it's just a fun idea to build a product, right? I think that'd be neat.
All right, so I know Gerber. What's some other big name knife brands?
There's a ton like Benchmade and Chris Reeves, and this is my this is my Chavez, designed by Ramon Chavez. Got this really cool little skull guy on the back.
Hey, uh-oh. Oh, you're back.
I disappeared for a second there. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I'm curious what happens in the recording, because all of a sudden it went black, and I'm like, "What's happening?"
You showed a knife. You showed a knife. That's a big tech sensor.
Is it really? That is, if it's that is bizarre, because I'm like, that's a cool design. Like it's a pocket knife. That is a cool design, right?
Now that shit was funny. I mean, you showed a knife and then went black
Afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
That is totally bizarre. I might have to edit that section out, because maybe I'm contravening some rules by showing a knife. And honestly, today, if you actually get stuff from Amazon, you have to open all those packages. They're always covered at the door. Like, honestly, it's like that's probably the most use of my knife, is opening packages from Amazon over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Weird.
It's funny. Hey, don't edit that out, because I think that's really funny. That's a cool moment. It's like I showed a knife, it went black.
And you know, there's a whole topic we could probably get into there, but that relates to business and that too. But that's kind of bizarre. Like, what if you were like, that's not my profession, but what if you're in a profession where you were like, let's say I was for full time, like I was a custom knife designer or something, right? And it would feel like the world's starting to close in if suddenly, like, what if you can't put ads online? What if you can't send emails? What if your email software starts peeling these things out? Because you have a pocket knife, which everyone has more knives in their kitchen than, you know, that's kind of bizarre to me to think about that. But
Yeah,
anyway.
That's crazy. That is so crazy. So, hey, anyway, if you haven't been to mikeandblaine.com, go, because Blaine's going to update the site very soon.
Oh. I'll say, check us out on YouTube and all this podcast, and follow us and subscribe to us. Go to our website, but I apologize. We put it together like 20 minutes, and now we have to kind of go, okay, we got to tidy it up a little bit.
Yeah, we took a standard just out of the box template and says, it says insert picture here. We did.
Yeah.
And that was our website.
Yeah, exactly. Which as a designer gives me chills a little bit, but it's like, yeah, it's either one or the other. It's really going to do it quick, or it's going to be like, I'm all in. It's going to take forever. So.
All right, so that's interesting. You say, as a designer, it gives you chills. Don't you think a designer built it?
It's sort of, but you know what? It's afraid. That's like saying it's like giving you somebody a pencil crayons. It's like someone actually designed the look and feel of the labeling and everything in the pencil crayon, but you still got to know how to use the pencil crayons, right? And it becomes a lot of work. Like it's to really touch all those things up. So
yeah, funny. All right, so this has been episode number 75. We have talked all about you don't have to have a perfect idea, because you can adapt later. So Blaine Birch, I am Cashflow Mike Milan. What do you got to say? What's your last word?
make sure you subscribe, guys, and check out our other episodes, and we'll see you next week for episode 76.
Got it.
Hold on, because I forgot I made this really cool end screen.
Oh yeah, we got to show you. Hey, play us out. Play us out, Blaine.
Okay, well, I don't know if there's any music to this, but I'm not sure what's happening because I don't think my end screen is coming up for some reason. So, I have to put the play button. 2 buttons I got to play. So here. All right. Thanks for watching. Catch our episodes, buy our merch, buy us a beer at mikeandblaine.com. And yeah, I guess I will stop recording, which I think stops us from streaming.
Hey, see you next week.
All right. See you, man.